Welcome back to A Better Life. I'm your host, Hank Kennigan, and this segment of our show is Mr. Sid Gautreaux, the sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish. Hey, Sid, how you doing, brother?
Thank you, Brother Hank. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good people watching A Better Life. Sid and I have been friends many years, and he has done an outstanding job as sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish. And I had lunch with him last week, and I said, hey, Sid, you got to come on the show and talk to the people watching A Better Life. That's what it's all about. Okay, Sheriff, since taking office, we know Sheriff is about law enforcement and everything, but also about education.
That's exactly right.
And tell us about your prolonged approach to law enforcement and continuing it or connecting it with education.
Well, before, if I just take a moment of personal privilege, I've noticed that, I've known you long enough and you know me long enough that we had darker hair and had a lot more hair when we first met each other. But
give me 5 here, bro.
But we at the sheriff's office, and I've done this since I was chief of police here in the city of Baker, and I was 27 years chief of police here in the city of Baker, and I've been sheriff since 2007. But my approach to law enforcement has always been multifaceted.
Okay.
And we have to do innovative and aggressive enforcement. I mean, people want us out there to make sure that we're protecting their property and their persons, and we do that. But not only is it the enforcement part of it, equally important is the community outreach part.
Yes.
And we do a tremendous amount of community outreach. We work with churches, we work with schools, we work with neighborhood associations, we work with business groups, we work with anybody that wants to work with us.
Yes.
And we attend, our community policing program attends probably anywhere from 300 to 400 community events a year.
Wow.
And they do a tremendous job. And without the connection that you make with the public.
Yes.
Without that connection, you cannot really accomplish what you want us to accomplish and what we want to accomplish. And that's making sure our community is as safe as it can possibly be. But working with the community, you have to get out there on a daily basis and reach out. You have to talk to people in a meaningful way. You have to open up that dialogue.
That avenue of trust, and I can trust.
That's right.
I can trust him, and he can trust me.
That's exactly right, and that's what builds that trust.
Is the relationships.
That's exactly right, and one of the reasons for our success in the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office is the fact that we do have that trust. We have that relationship, and people know that we're not just here today and gone tomorrow, and we're going to be here every day.
All right, Sheriff. I know. Rehabilitation at the prison, at the EBR prison, is very important to your heart as well. Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, when I started my career with the sheriff's office years ago, I worked in the prison for a year, and I learned a lot then. Times have changed since 1976 to now, but I learned a lot then. And if I took you out, I know this for a fact. We cannot just put people in prison and lock the door and keep them there however long they're going to be there. Expect them to be better when we let them out. They're not going to be. They're not going to be. That's why we have such a big recidivism rate within the nation and the state. Our state is not as bad as the nation on recidivism. Recidivism over the national average. In those that are incarcerated today, upon 3 or 5 years of their release, 70% going to be back in prison. Here in Louisiana, it's about 62%, and here in East Baton Rouge Parish, it's about 60%.
Okay.
But we got to change what we're doing, because what we're doing doesn't work. If we don't reach out to those individuals and try to show them a better way of life, try to give them the life skills that they need, we can't expect anything different. And Hank, you and I have talked about this many a time, but if I took you to parish prison, there's several things that's going to stick out. Number one is the individuals there, 98% of them probably have an addiction to drug or alcohol
Sure,
or both.
sure.
So addiction plays a big part into a life of crime. Number two is a lack of education.
Yes.
The average educational level at Parish Prison is 7th grade. So
Wow.
the lack of education is another contributing factor. And then you get in beyond that, most of them come from indigent backgrounds. You know, if they've had opportunities, they hadn't taken advantage of them, and they come from economically depressed backgrounds. And so all of those things figured into it. Then you look at a lot of them have either never received that faith or they've lost their faith
Right.
somewhere along the line. And that lack of faith, it plays a big part into it as well. So when I took office, I went out and I wanted to get a career correctional professional to be my warden.
That's good.
And God sent me Dennis Grimes.
Yes,
And
yes.
Dennis Grimes is an ordained preacher. He has a church in Clinton.
Sure.
But he's a man of God, and he had the same feelings I had. He had the same, you know, we talked to each other for about 3.5 hours. Both of us did a lot of talking, but both of us did a lot of listening when I hired him. And we had 2 self-help programs when I took office in the parish prison.
Yes.
But we have 22 now.
22 self-help?
22 self-help programs.
Wow.
We opened a faith-based wing. People told us you can't do that.
Yeah.
I said, yes, we can.
Yeah.
And we opened a faith-based wing.
Yeah, I know
And
some of our pastors.
some of y'all's pastors
that
go in there.
Go there and minister.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, they get instruction from all denominations.
Yes.
And, you know, it's very successful. We started a GED wing because I knew those that wanted to get their education needed to be in an environment that's more conducive with them getting
Sure.
that education. And we've graduated hundreds with the GED
That's
program.
awesome.
What I don't have, and what I'd love to have in a prison is a chemical dependency unit and a mental health unit, which we could talk about all day.
All right, good people watching A Better Life. We'll be right back right after this commercial. Be right back with Sheriff Sid Gautreaux here on A Better Life.